Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pocket Coach. I am Anthony Crane, and today I want to talk to you about something we call the biggest failure award. A lot of companies have played with this kind of idea. Um, this is all about the whole idea of fail fast. And I don't want to bore you with stuff you've already learned. Hopefully, at this point, you've heard fail fast is a big deal. So I wanted to spend this 5 minutes talking about stuff you may not have heard and stuff that makes fail fast just a little bit more actionable. Okay, so let's take a look. There's only 3 slides in this, so this will be pretty quick. So first off, what kind of culture do you want in your company? On the left, we have a culture where we innovate, where we strive to do more and shoot for the moon and reach for the stars, right? The flip of that is on the right side. Instead of innovate, it's stick with what has always worked. We've always done it that way. It always has worked. We don't need to innovate, right? Strive to do more. Instead, it's nope, plan for what you know you can for sure accomplish, right? Don't overstretch. Don't try to do more than you really know you can. Reach for the stars. The stars are not for humankind. That's actually a quote from a book that I just read. so, um, for me, I want to work on the left. I don't want to be part of the right. When you punish failure, when you fail to reward failure, you get the right. When people are afraid of failure, they will stick with what has always worked. They will plan for what they know they can accomplish, and they will never reach for the stars. So as an example, if I were to tell you, hey, I'll give you a big bonus if you stuff as many envelopes as you promise in 5 minutes, you're going to say, okay, I'll do 5 envelopes because you know you can get 5 done in 5. That's a minute per envelope. But if I'm like, look, just get as many envelopes as you can done and don't even talk about reward systems, just, hey, do the best you can. How many do you think you can do? You're like, I don't know, maybe 20, 50. You'll just pick a number and go for it because you're not afraid of failure. The minute you make failure a negative, people will have to sandbag in order to be safe. When you make failure not an option, people will protect themselves by under committing. It's guaranteed. So if you want a culture of undercommitment, then by all means, continue to punish failure. All right. Now, in some of my companies, I've heard them say, hey, can we rebrand fail fast to learn fast? Because, Anthony, we don't want them to fail. We want them to learn, right? No. Okay. So let's talk about this little gem. If you do this, if you rebrand fail fast to learn fast, you will absolutely damage your agile transformation. Why? First of all, you've just said, I'm so afraid of the word failure, I won't even say it as a slogan. Even though the whole agile community says fail fast, you are afraid of doing that. So not the best. So instead, we need to stick with that fail fast vocabulary. You've said failure is not an option. Also, you're saying, by the way, if you fail and don't learn, that's still bad. If you have a culture of fear, you need to eliminate that culture by rewarding failure for failure's sake. Gosh, if I fail and I didn't learn something, I can't report that. Is that really what you want? You want people to fail and be afraid to tell you they failed? Because that's what you do if you make learning a requirement of failure. Let them fail and reward them for failure, not for the learning part. By the way, if they don't supply, here's what I learned, and they share the failure, everyone else will. Everyone's like, oh, have you thought of this? And oh, maybe it was because of that. Everyone can participate in the learning instead of just the people who failed. So if you want to remove a culture of fear, you must make failure okay. And I've had so many clients where they have a culture of fear. If you ask, hey, do we have a culture of fear? And no one tells you yes, it could be that they're terrified of you, right? You need to talk to people who very much trust you before you learn whether or not you have a culture of fear. But many of my clients do. So the other thing about we must learn from failure, who's we? We isn't just the people who failed, it's everyone around them. Okay. It's not just them. So we all need to learn and we have to stop saying you failed. Okay. The other thing is, it's funny enough, in one organization, they said learn fast. And so people thought that meant, oh, we should go out and learn a lot of stuff really quickly. And they completely lost the idea. No, it's about failing and learning from failure. The whole learning from failure part was completely lost. So at least call it learn from failure instead of learn fast. Okay. Last piece of the puzzle here is the biggest failure award. So should you do this? There are companies who do this. There are companies who have a biggest failure award and they put people on stage and they award them once a quarter, once a year. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause this video and I want you to answer, write it down on a piece of paper, why it's a bad idea to reward failure. Just go ahead and do it. Okay, let's assume that you did that. Maybe you didn't. Here's the deal. If you try to write down all the reasons it's bad to reward failure. You'll find you get stuck. I actually had a client who did this, and every time he tried to say, here's why, he kept pausing because he couldn't find a defensible reason as to why we shouldn't reward failure. So finally, he gave me two. One of them was, well, sometimes we fail for a bad reason, not a good reason. Right? And his own peers were like, dude, we want to know the bad reasons as much as maybe even more than the good reasons. So yeah, if we fail for a bad reason, let's find out what those bad reasons are and get better by removing the fear. The second thing is like, well, what if they're just incompetent? Right? Think about incompetence for a second. If someone's incompetent, would they really say, I just failed? Right? It takes courage to admit that you failed. Okay. So I think I'm incompetent here is not an easy thing to say. That's the kind of people you want. Okay. You want people to have a willingness to learn. Hey, I think I failed. Maybe there was something I could have done better. This is who you want in an agile world. And by the way, did they fail? Think about it. Did they fail, or did they, if it's a big failure, do you really think they did that by themselves? What about their peers? What about their managers? What about the fact that we hired this incompetent person? What's wrong with our hiring practices, right? What's wrong with our educational practice? What's wrong with our feedback practices? Why? If someone is incompetent, that's our company's problem, much more so than that individual. And the fact that this individual is raising their hand saying, hey, I'm failing over here, doesn't sound like an incompetent person, okay? So the incompetence really at the heart of our biggest failures. So bottom line, ask yourself, what would be the harm of having a biggest failure award? I bet you have trouble listing out defensible reasons. And if you ask yourself, why should we have them? I think you're not going to have a lot of trouble realizing the benefit to your culture. So that's it. That's my video on the biggest failure award. I know it's pretty quick, but hopefully you guys can take something from this and go change your culture away from a culture of fear and into a culture of safety and innovation. Thank you very much. My name is Anthony Crane, and I hope you enjoyed this video.